This video is sponsored by Alpha Draft, where you can play fantasy esports such as CSGO, League of Legends, and they also produce and support and sponsor two podcasts I do, one for League of Legends, one for CSGO, called By the Numbers, which you'll find on their channel. I'll put links in the description box below. This is not, as the graphics say, Thorin's thoughts. I just don't have new graphics, and I don't have the wizardry to make graphics. So this is a new feature called Thorin versus Reddit, and it's a pretty self-explanatory title. There's a lot of interesting, infuriating, idiotic comments made on Reddit. I read them every day as part of my job. I read Reddit. Part of the reason why I read it so often is to get the pulse of the community, see what people's opinions are on things, see what people are thinking in general, see what the consensus is, what the most agreed upon general opinions are to a topic, so that I know when I'm setting my work up how to frame discussions, or on talk shows how to lead discussions so that it's beneficial to either address something the community thinks, maybe even to not have to overly explain something the community already agrees with. So anyway, I have to read it a lot, and in doing so, a byproduct of that is, on one hand, if I took it all seriously, I would just go mental because there's so many stupid comments, and in a way that actually just does give me brain cancer in a way. So as a result, the way I get through it is I turn it into comedy, and I just find a way to enjoy it, or I rant at it, but in a way that I enjoy. So I thought, but the prompting of some people who are colleagues of mine, I'm going to try doing an episode where today I went through a whole bunch of Reddit threads. As I was reading them, if I found something interesting, I put it into a text file, and I'm going to go through some of the best comments, and I'm going to respond to them. Okay, so I'm going to start off. Here's the first one. I'm not going to mention the name of the person who said it, by the way, because I don't want to make this actually like bullying that person or calling them out, and so people can see on the video and then go and find what their name was and fuck with them. Like that's gross. But it's just the comment is what we're responding to. Okay, it's just the information. So there was a thread, and it was titled, "When Nar turns into Mega Nar, his name changes to Mega Nar in chat. When Lulu does her ... ellipsis thing to someone, his name changes to Squill." Okay, that's fine. "But when Quinn ults into Valor, her name doesn't change. Sad face." I mean, listen, okay, if I was actually friends with this person and I saw that, then in the spirit of friendship, I'd probably just say, kill yourself. Now, instead, I'll rephrase that, take away the potentially offensive component of that and terminology and phraseology, and instead I'll just I'll say something. Well, what I kind of do is I'll make it more of an impassioned, positive speech about life. Okay, so I'll say that person who wrote this, okay, understand this, okay, take yourself out of the fact that, you're on League of Legends, r/League of Legends, you play in the game, this frustration's happened, you want to communicate with other people, see if they agree, see if you can provoke some information, but just understand this, my friend, okay? One day, we will all be dead. Our time on this mortal plane, it's fleeting. The paradigms of society, human life, these things trap us within a kind of a matrix of externally defined meaning. This system which we require to live, and we have to spend our waking hours working within, playing some cog-like role within a greater machine that keeps rolling on. We have to spend our time doing that, okay? So the time that we have free, it's precious. Now, in this little precious time that you might get to yourself, aside from work, education, family life, commitments, you only have this precious little amount of time to yourself, for you. So you might spend this time, I don't know, you might pursue loves, you might follow the romantic passions of the heart. This could bring you a lot of joy, this could cause you true suffering. There's a wide spectrum to the romantic quests of life. Maybe you prefer the sciences, finding the measure of nature, expanding the horizons of human understanding. Philosophy is not a great topic. It's entertained many a great mind, allowed us to deliver the human imagination into new vistas of meaning from which to appreciate and find new subjective enjoyment and a satisfaction in life. Instead, you choose to talk about a fucking completely worthless arbitrary, meaningless piece of law-related bullshit to do with a badly implemented feature of the UI, which isn't even really that badly implemented, because who actually gives a flying fuck? I think I've made myself quite clear on this one particular topic. So next, there was a video put up, and this isn't going to be a comment on any comment made, but the title of the video was "Reckless Montage," sort of space, "The Young Superstar." Now, I mean, really, are we going to really, is this what we're going to do to words? So the word superstar, let's think of what the word superstar is supposed to mean. I can give you sort of a chronology of the meaning of the word superstar as far as I know it. Okay, so I doubt it was invented in the NBA or around the NBA, but it seems to have been an American sports phenomenon, this term. Now, what I know about it in terms of the NBA, the way it was often described that made a lot of sense to me, is that because of the way franchise systems work in North American sports and the way the draft works, they purposely make it so that the lesser teams, in theory, are getting the best talent, the best upcoming talent through the draft system. So by placing badly in the league, you get the best chance to get the best new talent, so that, in theory, every single franchise should have one or two really good players, either young players or good players later. And the idea is, because every single franchise will have a good player or a star player potentially, at least a star of their team, if not a star of the league, it ensures that the league as a whole, in theory, remains healthy as a product, because then the people in this one town of this bad city that's not doing this bad franchise rather, the people at that town don't then just give up because the team's total shit and it's getting worse and worse, and because they're bad, no one wants to go there. It doesn't get to that point where people just don't go to the games anymore. People don't care about that, and there's only, say, 4 or 5 big franchises that people care about, and then all these lesser ones die off. For the health of the overall league and having every game have some level of people watching, caring about it, supporting, following the league, they want it so that each franchise, every team essentially has a star. So within a world where now you've taken the term star, and it doesn't just mean the 5 best players, it means the best player on each team, and that will maybe even will be a top 20, top 30 player. Now we need a way to even take the word star and define it differently. Okay, so that's great. We've got this term superstar. Great. Someone who supersedes even just being a star, they're above what just a star is. So even among stars, let's say there's 20 to 30 stars in the NBA, superstar is like those 5 guys that even among stars, they're just that much better. They stand out even among those 20 guys, and they are significantly better than stars. Now, this term's a great term to apply to esports, because yes, each team does have stars, okay? You can go down them. I mean, you go down the league, even a team like Giants, okay? You could call Pepinero a star of EULCS. But when we talk about superstar, again, this needs to be those very few god-tier elite level players. So in Europe, we've got some we could think of already. We could think of Hooney. We could think of someone like Kasing. We could think of someone like, maybe even someone like Forgiven when he's at his best. Reckless doesn't apply the term. The term superstar doesn't work for Reckless. Reckless isn't even a top 3 player in his team. Never mind the league. His position, he's not a top 3 player in that position in the league. Now, in terms of overall performance and winning, you could start to make some sort of inroad on it, but when you take away the team component and all those other aspects, as an individual player, his position, he's not even really much of a star. Not within his team, not in the context of the league. He's definitely not a superstar. So let's not just go ridiculous on this, okay? The problem is, if you have everyone be a superstar, everyone who's good, and you have 30 superstars just in the ULCS, you're going to get to this world where, again, the term superstar is not going to mean anything. And you've actually just taken the term star and abused it and turned it into superstar. In which case, what do I do now? Hyper mega star for Kasing over Reckless? What do we do with it? This fucking with language again. This reminds me of an old Bill Hicks joke where he said that when he first started going to England, where he was a lot more popular than he was in America, he would do some shows, and then British people, English people, would come up to him and they would say to him, like, "Oh, you're brilliant, man. The things he said, it's brilliant, man. Yeah, the thoughts, just everything's brilliant, man. You're absolutely brilliant." And he would think like, "Wow, like, oh my God, people must love me here. Like, they appreciate me. Finally, people understand me." But then those same people, some of them, after a show, he went out with them to, like a coffee shop or something, and then they were getting the tea came, and they were like, "Oh, this tea is just brilliant, isn't it? What a brilliant day this is, having a brilliant conversation." And he quickly realized, like, actually that's really brought me down a bit there, because I thought when you said brilliant, like you meant that, like, I am a brilliant individual who just stands out in the crowd in the way I think so keen. But actually you also think this cup of tea, which isn't probably even the best fucking cup of tea you've had this week, is also brilliant. So suddenly now that doesn't mean a lot, and now I don't even feel that good about the comment. So I hope you can understand what I mean there about the term superstar. I think it should be pretty self-evident. So, let's see. Quote, where's the champion? Oh, this is in a thread, by the way, about MYM. It's alleged by a player of theirs that they haven't paid this player, and then their former coach, Shadow LS, former Gravity coach also, came forward and said MYM hadn't paid him as well. And so one of the top comments, it was a highly upvoted one, I thought it was good actually, said, where's the champion of player rights, Riot Tryndamere, aka Mark Merrill? He so passionately defended Faker from a guy streaming his games. Or doesn't he give a fuck because the people losing out, grammar's a bit off in this, is a player and not a Zubu and Kesper? I mean, this one I just thought is like fair play. It's a very good comment. Like, it's true. Mark Merrill was so worried about Faker and how he was being exploited and abused. Meanwhile, the guy who was abusing and exploiting Faker and bullying him and e-stalking him and all that shit wasn't doing anything against Riot's rules, anything actually against the law, wasn't even doing anything ethically wrong even, because he was actually providing a totally different service for free in itself. But because Faker is the most known player, and he's involved with one of the best teams, and he's in Korea, the best country, and he's with Kesper, this massive organisation politically in esports, and Azubu's involved in it as well. Suddenly Mark Merrill had all these opinions to come out with and all these things to say about it, and he wanted to protect the rights. Meanwhile, as far as we can tell, or what's based on what's alleged, MYM is just literally not even paying people, first of all, the salary that they owe those people, and then that salary, indirectly to a degree, is presumably coming from fucking Riot to MYM, and then MYM's not paying it to those players. So the idea that Riot don't even care about this, aren't even making any public statements about it. I mean, while fucking Mark Merrill was going off like a, well, I don't even know what, like firecracker. I don't know. I didn't really have a good simile for that one. He's just going off like crazy on his Twitter about the Faker thing. Man, well, we don't see any comment for anyone who's a head Riot person, especially not in any public capacity like they did there. So it's kind of interesting, isn't it? Because this looks like real scumbaggery, whereas the other one was like making an absolute mountain out of a molehill. It actually turned out wasn't even much of a molehill in the first place. So yeah, I mean, let's be real. I doubt Mark Merrill has any fucking clue who this particular player is, Noxiac. I doubt he even knows if he even knows who the fuck MYM is. I don't know much about him. He probably doesn't give a fuck, quite frankly. So again, so much for them being like bastions of player rights and standing up for the little guy and all that sort of thing. If you actually ask me, the whole Faker, spectator Faker thing had very little to do with Faker and his personal rights, and a lot more to do with protecting Kesper, SKT, and Azubu. Those are the real interests I thought they were more interested in. And as usual, big corporate structures like companies and leagues always tend to be siding with the team over the player. There's a different hierarchy. It goes player, team, company, or like organization running the league, a company, in this case, both the same one. In that particular scenario, the reason why they're more in favor, well, more on the side rather of the org, the team over the player, is because they can then make the team enforce things that they want onto the player, and the team and the player will naturally have their own adversity and discussions over things, and so they are more aligned, the league / developer / top org and the team over the player. So again, I don't think even that was actually presented in a manner that was realistic. It seemed a bit disingenuous, even the way it came off in that sense. So yeah, there's a good one actually. It's I'm not even making fun of that guy. So let's go on. Here's one. So in a topic about IEM San Jose returning this year, someone said, "Damn, there are only 5 international tournaments a year now!" And I'm inferring from this, it was meant to be like mildly sarcastic, like, you know, there's loads of international tournaments now, isn't this great? You know, like obviously in the past years, people used to really complain, understandably so, that there was like 2 international tournaments or 1 international tournament, and then very few teams were going to get to play there. This is obviously a massive topic. This is a problem. I've made many videos about the open circuit and Riot, how they should do their tournaments. You can probably find tons of those in the Thorin's Thoughts section. But in terms of this, actually, I don't think yet that we're at a point where they've got enough international tournaments and that suddenly this is a problem, or that this is something to make fun of. Like, oh, everyone suggested there wasn't enough. There's loads now. No, not really. So let's count up what there's likely to be this year. So we've had the IEM World Championship. That took place in March by IEM. We had the MSI, the Mid-Season Invitation. I think that was in May by Riot. We're going to have Worlds, which is in a few months. And that's obviously Riot again, the World Championship. Now we're going to have IEM San Jose. Not sure what the dates were for that. I didn't notice. I think it was actually... No, actually, I think I know. Wasn't it... I believe it's either... I think it's in November, actually. So, I think... Anyway, later on this year, IEM San Jose. So, we're up to 4 so far. Then there's the All-Stars event. So, there's 5. And then, assuming we follow a similar calendar last year, presumably there'll be something like IEM Cologne, which was in December. So that would be 6 for this year. So this guy's actually one off, but okay, maybe he didn't know about IEM Cologne. So there would be 6. Now that sounds pretty good, right? 6 international tournaments. Except when you consider how the teams are drawn and selected for these tournaments and which teams we'll see competing there. So the IEM World Championship is a tournament that you qualify for in general by playing in previous IEMs, or being this time they actually had a really cool format where it was depending on how high placed you are. So if you were the first place team in some of the regions, you got an invite as well. That's pretty cool. But even so, there's a very limited space to qualify there, and you have to potentially go to past IEMs to get a spot sometimes. Even so, pretty good international tournament. MSI is only for the number 1 team in each region, so you're only going to get to see the number 1 there. Now that in itself has problems, because what happens if you get a scenario where like 3 teams are tied for number 1? Assuming you do, well, I guess in MSI actually, I guess goes off the winner of the splits. I guess that doesn't work. For the IEM one, they did it where it was if you were number 1 in that week, so you'd had to play tiebreakers to go for it. So that in itself has a problem with it in itself. But let's forget that. For MSI, only number 1 team goes. But let's say that the difference between number 1 and number 2 was very, very slim. Let's say 2 incredibly competitive teams were there. Well, then actually you wish like, I could have seen this second team there. Really, we want international tournaments in general. I know coming from other games like CSGO, where you have like the top 3 teams from a region, the top 5 teams from the big regions. Those would be cool tournaments. Having just the number 1, it is cool. It's kind of like a champion of champions. I like that aspect. But if we're only going to get 5 or 6 in a year, okay, you can have 1 like that, but I don't want more like that as we go on, okay? So go on again. Worlds. Now, Worlds is a great format. I even love the way you qualify for LCS now. There's all the 3 different ways to qualify. You're going to get, in theory, the top 3 teams from each region. That's all, well, the major ones. That's all great. Love Worlds. Excellent. We're up to 3 now. IEM San Jose. If you remember how past IEM circuit events, not the World Championship, were done, they basically went off a fan vote. I believe they invited the winners, like last time for IEM San Jose, I think they invited TSM and Alliance on the basis that they'd won the previous. So there's like an element of arbitrary nature where IEM can decide to invite a champion, which is fine. And then there's also fan votes. Now, as soon as you bring fan votes into it, mate, that suddenly doesn't make this a super cool international tournament that I consider like a top international, and that whenever anyone was complaining, like, we want to see more international tournaments, that's not what I had in mind, is fans being allowed to vote someone in. Because if you remember, Unicorns of Love, okay, upset TSM, and they made it to the final where they admittedly got wrecked by Cloud9, and everyone at the time, because they hadn't seen the new SK lineup, was like, and people said we should have voted SK in, because part of the fan vote was like, SK, Unicorns of Love, and someone else. I can't remember who else it was. Gambit or someone, Curse, Rockhat maybe, one of those 3. Those were the people being voted for, and in the end, Unicorns of Love won. Now, Unicorns of Love won mainly because people thought it was a funny name, because they played some wacky shit in the amateur scene, and some NA fans thought, like, hey, let's vote the shitter EU team in so they can get wrecked by the top NA teams, and we can say NA over EU confirmed. So that's not a really good basis for setting up an awesome international tournament, especially if we only got 5 or 6 in a year. Like, no thanks. Invite the better teams. At the time, SK had been top 3 team the previous split. They'd had a really exciting upgrade by bringing one of the best AD carries from Europe. So that whole thing was like, that should have been an obvious one where we could have had Alliance, C9, TSM, and SK all at one tournament. What a fucking awesome event that would have been. So I'm just pointing out here, the problem with these fan votes is that they're not going to necessarily give us the best teams, and we're not even getting to see the best teams play many tournaments anyway, especially if you are second or third. So then if you don't win the fucking fan vote, then what's happening? And also you'll notice these fan votes aren't for like every single team in LCS. There'll only be 2 or 3 for each IEM. So they ask the teams, well, first of all, they decide what teams are going to go. You'll notice they only ever have, at these circuit events, 4 LCS teams. Now, why is that? They have 6 teams usually. Go back in the history, you'll find this out of these tournaments. They always have 2 amateur teams or 2 teams from wildcard regions. Now, they'll tell you some bullshit now, like, that's to provoke diversity in the scene and to give people experience internationally and to have interesting matchups that we don't usually see. Yeah, that's all great, except that that's all reverse engineered backwards. The real reason why they have those bad teams, by the way, because they're bad teams, they're shit, is because those are the teams that they're available after they've got the 4 LCS teams they're allowed. Now, in an ideal world, IEM would have 6 LCS teams, or they'd have 4 LCS teams and 2 Koreans there, or 2 Chinese there. They'd have some super stacked, awesome event for an international tournament. Now, they don't, because instead, Riot only allows them so many, and then they have to use these other slots for lesser teams or lesser regions or amateurs. They're not allowed to have an awesome tournament. Now, there's a lot of reasons I suspect as to why. Number 1, I would have to guess, is that Riot don't want these lesser tournaments by a third-party organiser rivaling any of their tournaments. They don't want their tournament to... After what happened with that IPL 5 shit, they don't want third-party organisers showing them up. Remember Season 2? I mean, technically IPL was after Season 2, but it was all in 2012. Ask anyone what the best tournament of 2012 was. Everyone says IPL 5 instantly, and then they can give you all the reasons, all the memorable matches. IPL 5 showed up Season 2 Worlds, partly because Season 2 Worlds had a shit format, by the way, with the buys and single elim and these terrible group stage system, and not enough invites for sick regions like Korea. So it had all these problems with it, and then IPL 5 came along. Awesome tournament, great format, so many good teams, so many memorable matches, more matches, better structure throughout the tournament to promote great matches. And so because it's shit on Season 2 Worlds, I've noticed ever since then there's been these sort of limitations to a degree on many, especially in the modern day, nearly always on third-party tournaments. You just essentially you're not given the opportunity, the tools, like good enough teams, to put on a tournament that really could supersede a Riot-type big event. And it's not going to happen for you. So, okay, that's just part of it. And that's part of the issue, is that because we still don't have enough big international tournaments that are legit with all the top 3 or 4 teams from the big regions all battling each other, so that we can know what happens when Cacao plays against fucking, I don't know, I Will Dominate or something like that. Instead, we don't ever get to see these matches. So just listen, it's cool that there's more tournaments. I like it. I like there being more international tournaments. But don't ever fool yourself into believing that League of Legends right now is like one of the most legit esports in terms of proper international competition and how teams battle each other. It's still very much got an exhibition component put together around it in terms of the international competitions, a bit of a gimmick, novelty, freak show fight aspect to it of playing amateurs against some of the world's best teams, keeping regions apart so you can make it all cool for worlds in that one tournament, which is lame. If you follow esports like Dota 2, like CSGO, we get to see these great teams that are the best in the world battling cross-regionally again and again throughout the year, and you get these really awesome storylines. So League of Legends isn't there yet, and adding this one tournament, by the way, hasn't changed that. So let's get real. Okay, so quote, this is from a thread, it's from the same thread, IEM San Jose one. So this one says, 2 days for fuck's sake. ESL got all this money and they don't take their time for a proper LoL tournament. Make it 3 to 4 days and have an acceptable format. How is it possible that so many tournament organisers in CSGO, for example, manage to create much better tournaments despite lower budgets? We barely have any international competition, and when we have, it's the IEMs with their horrible formats. I just don't get it. Is it so difficult to have a decent international tournament outside MSI and Worlds? Edit, for example, have a 4-day event, invite 8 teams, divide them into groups of 4, do a one round round robin group stage, 6 matches on day 1, 6 matches on day 2, do the 2 best of 5 semi-finals on day 3, and on the final day 4, you have the best of 5 final. Now, here's the problem. That's all entirely reasonable. If you hear that, you'd probably be like, oh, great point. And by the way, he has made a great points there. Why not do that? Why not have more days? Why not have a better schedule? Why not have better teams? And make it how we all want it. Best of 5 final. Okay, you can have best of 5 semi-finals as well, because they have best of 5 final, but they don't have best of 5 semi. And they don't have best of 5 final, by the way, for the big IEM World Championship. They don't have best of 5. Oh, no, they do have best of 5 final now for the IEM close, actually, and all that. I'm wrong about that, actually. They now have it for those as well. So, as well as that, though, let's have the semis be best of 5. So we don't have where, like, Rocket goes 2 to 1. I mean, hey, let's see if TSM could have come back against Unicorns Love. They'd had 2 games to play them, and then they could have gone the third one. So, yeah, that would be even better. Let's have 8 teams. Let's have better teams there. Problem is, first of all, I've already addressed the teams issue. That's not going to happen. Riot's one of the ones holding that back. Also, logistically, since they're trying to run this tournament on such a short format with the best of 1s in the group stage and then best of 3 semis and pack it all into those days, you're not going to have it then. Because if they decide, oh, sorry, we only booked it 2 or 3 days, so they're not going to allow you logistically to do like more bigger group stage like you want. And then in terms of having like best of 5 semis, they're going to say, yeah, but the problem there is, again, we logistically don't have time in those days. Plus, we want to show all the matches. Now, what's annoying about this is that you've created all of this situation. ESL made all these problems they're telling you right now sound like, oh, they're just problems that are imposed on us and there's nothing we can do about it. Oh, no, there are. You decided every one of those. Who decided how many days it takes place? You. Who decided what format you could use based on the number of days? You. Who decided if every match had to be shown and that there couldn't be overlapping matches on separate streams with different casters? You. You decided all the problems, then come up with shitty solutions, and then you're like, I'm trapped in this situation like this, but here's the best solution possible, so we'll have to do that. But that's actually not the best solution because you created the problem in the first place, and then your solution might be the best to that problem, but the original problem didn't have to exist. You could change it though. No, I have to do it on 2 days. Like, come on, man. These are people who break under cross-examination instantly if there was any. But we don't get any. We just get press releases, and then someone complains, quite reasonably, and then some guy from ESL or whatever, IEM, will just come into the thread like, sorry, guys, there's only 2 days, so we had to fit it into there. And that's it. That's transparency for you. I mean, not really at all. I mean, you created those problems. You can have it be longer. I mean, there's tons of tournaments now that last 3 or 4 days. If you're talking about big tournaments, like if you're going to have a world championship like they had for IEM, if you're going to call it a world championship, make it a world championship, mate. Have it be as important as that. Book an extra 1 day or 2 days. Make it a better format. Make it a more impressive format that really shows who the best is, has proper matchups, has enough games for everyone, and satisfy everyone. And like I say, if that means logistically, even with more days you can't run it, have fucking games be on separate streams. We don't have to watch every game, especially when some of the games are going to be shit. Give people the option to choose what to watch. Now we'll all have a great tournament. So I don't buy that whole thing. I like the guy's comment there. He makes some good points. But you're not going to get that. So, same thread again. I'm including this one just because it is funny. This wasn't even high voted. It just said, let's go TSM. It's your tournament to win. Now, by the way, they didn't even mention that TSM would go into the tournament as far as I know. It's like it's August right now. This tournament's miles away. Like, we won't even know what form TSM will be in at that point. Right now, TSM's in terrible form, where they've had all this drop-off, where they used to be by far the #1 NA team, and probably even Western team. Now they've dropped the whole fuck ton. Now that it's debatable they're even top 3 in NA at the moment, they've got all these problems, everything's fallen apart. The lineup's like barely held together by Bjergsen going fucking ham, because there's so many players should be removed, or potentially changed, or need a massive overhaul of their play. They need to overhaul the whole hierarchy, from the fucking owner's involvement in the team, to what the fucking coaches are doing, how the coaches relate to the players. Everything's going to fucking shit. And yet this guy, I mean, God love him. He's just out there like, let's go TSM. It's your tournament to win. I mean, man alive. And not only that, but let's remember what happened at the last IEM San Jose. That was the one where TSM went, in theory, in good form. Admittedly, they had a new player. Thorin was brand new at that point. That was the tournament where the first game they played was Unicorns of Love. I'm sure you remember it vividly. I fucking love that game. And in this game, it's where Unicorns of Love next level mind game them in pick ban, so that they TSM thought that the Twisted Fate was going mid, but actually it was just a pick from Kikis in jungle. And then instead they had, I think it was LeBlanc was the one that went mid on Power of Evil, but after Bjergsen then thought, I'm safe to pick this Xerath, and then he obviously gets fucking, oh god, he's locked in LeBlanc. So anyway, in that game, if you remember how that started, that's what this made me think of. The way he was like, it's your tournament to win. It made me think of the way that game started, obviously, was really early on. Kikis came down, flashed into the mid lane, and gold carded. Well, I don't know why that just went crazy there. He gold carded onto TSM. So maybe it's the same thing. Maybe the luster in this young man's eyes, the hope is like that. It's like when that gold card came in, it's like fucking Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. I'm like, I've got a golden ticket. I've got a golden ticket. Yeah, I don't know, mate. Maybe TSM will win it. Yeah, it's theirs to win, apparently. I don't know why. Because you like TSM? Okay, cool. So, yeah, different thread now. This is the thread about... The thread was about Meteos' true feelings on Aegis of the Legion. And this was the comment. It said... So, okay, it was a reply, actually. The original comment that he's replying to said, and rightfully so, I play support and I don't build Aegis because my main champion is Zyra. It's like, okay. And then the guy replying to him just says, then you are the egotistic dick in your team and should shut the fuck up about junglers not buying it for the team. Which is like, Jesus, whoa. All the guy said is he doesn't build Aegis. Like, he goes a different build. He allows someone else on his team to do it. He doesn't think that jungler has to be the one. Let me think. Oh, no, that's right. He doesn't think that a support has to build Aegis. He thinks that the jungler should build it in certain situations, which, by the way, is an entirely reasonable debate to have. So, like, if I can calm down there, Crepo, who's like, now, listen, the Mikhail's build in this game, I don't like the way it was done. You see, why is he going towards Frozen Heart there? Frozen Heart's not going to help you there. At this point in the game, I'd prefer he starts going towards complete the Mikhails. That would have saved the game here. He could have used on his AD carry here. Like, whoa, calm down, Crepo. Like, that's okay in fucking pro level analysis. And even then, Crepo sometimes goes a little bit too far. But okay, that's okay there because he's trying to go for optimal play. We're talking about fucking solo queue where people are playing. We don't even know if this was ranked. He might be playing normals here for fun. And he just doesn't choose to have to build as one thing. In fact, the whole discussion, which was actually quite an interesting, fruitful discussion, was the idea that either it's bad that Riot makes certain things too cost effective, so you are sort of essentially, if you want to win, forced down certain build paths rather than having the freedom to choose situationally what you want to do, how you as a player want to play, and also the idea that just because there is a meta of what's ideal doesn't mean you have to do that either. First of all, the team can do things differently, and secondly, it's not as fun as if you feel like, oh, I have to then always build this second item and then this third one. You want to do something different sometimes, make it fun. So that's just a mentality that I think in League of Legends it goes way too far in that sense. So next one. This was from a thread about OMG versus King in LPL Summer 2015, which is week 10 of LPL day 3, so very recently. And a guy said, actually, Insec used to play top in Korea, and in this meta, he figured it is easier to carry as top laner. Has nothing to do with their previous top getting shit on. And then another guy says, he played top for a while and was terrible at it, which is like first of all, let's be real here. Insect, it goes both ways on this. It's not that he was really good. So Insect didn't play top in Korea, by the way, because he was a good top laner and that made a lot of sense. He played top in Korea so that they could have Kakao come in and be their jungler, who wasn't a god yet, but was still a very good jungler. So they'd have a very good jungler. And on top of that, Insect could then try being top and have a different flavour of the team, because at the time Someday wasn't that great at top. He was very average, so we're going to try having both of them in the team. Kakao would have a different mix on how he played the game. Insect would be the top laner, and Insect played a very unique top lane style because it was kind of like a Korean Darien. His whole style was to play very mobile champions and to provide pressure across the map constantly by drawing attention from the enemy, and because he was so mobile and so sick with his mechanics, he could make all these escapes and outplays, and he was actually like a better version of Darien in that sense, the latter day Darien, not the original one. The M5 one, that is. Instead, he was more like just this great ability to draw people away, and as a result, it opened up the map for a team that was already brilliant at exploiting the map and knowing when to trade and knowing when to take risky barons and go for dragons and make these clever, brilliant shot calls. It was just another feather and another kind of arrow in their quiver in terms of what they could do, another tool on their tool belt. So it was great. First of all, yeah, that's the thing. It was mainly the role he played that made it effective. Now, also, people go too far the other way. Like, I'm saying he was good. With that said, he wasn't shit either. Like, he did relieve pressure. That's great in itself. But he also had sick mechanics. Never forget that. And thirdly, this is actually something that people don't ever often bring up, but as a very weird kind of benefit of him playing top lane was that he oddly matched up very well, for some reason, in all the series they played against Flame, who at the time was the best Korean top laner. He was coming off that final where he'd made it with Blaze, and they'd lost to Ozone. Then in the summer split, in the round of 8 they met, and they had this 3-2 series, and Insec had some really crucial single plays, and in general laning against Flame, where he managed to just hang in there when Flame was the best, and that was the nightmare when he faced their Blaze, was that Flame would just eat you up and wreck you. So in all their series, then in the winter season, he also managed to play well against him and neutralise him to a degree. And then also there was the Worlds qualifier where he'd done it. So there was a bunch of series that they played Blaze in, where Blaze at the time was like either third or fourth best team in Korea. And if Insect doesn't match up in this very unique fashion that not many other top players could match up 1v1 against Flame, if he hadn't been able to do that and then also add in this extra dynamic to the map, Bullets just wouldn't have been as good. They would not have been as good a team. And so he did add something valuable there. So he was actually a good player. He wasn't amazing at the role at top. He wasn't shit either. He wasn't like just some trash tier player. So people are going way too far on both ends of that one there. Okay, here's one. So someone did a thread that was called, let me see, LMS TPA Type Assassin's Choi got suspended for elo boosting. And here was the comment. I have quit League long ago and just wanted to share this little piece of background information about elo boosting in Singapore. Elo boosting is really rampant in Singapore as there aren't any proper infrastructure to support the players financially. Thus, most local competitive players here are elo boosters. Back in 2014, I was in an elo boosting group that Choi was probably in before he went over to Taiwan. This elo boosting group consisted mainly of the local pro players, and it dominated the local elo boosting market as the game was still growing. The group then formed partnership with another group and established a monopoly over the local boosting market. So I am guessing he got caught because someone sold him out. Edit. Choi's response to the current situation. TLDR. Choi elo boosted for a friend long time ago. Friend did not pay him the money. Choi pestered him for the money due to dire financial reasons, which resulted in friend reporting him. Now, fuck me. It's mainly the last part. The rest of it was build up to that. But the idea that Choi's mate, like, he boosted for him, so he did his mate a favour, then his friend didn't pay him the money. So now Choi, later on, when he's in dire financial situation, is like, can I please have that money that you didn't pay me before? And so the friend's like, well, you did me a favour, I fucked you over, and now you're in trouble, so I'm just going to ultra fuck you over and report you for elo boosting, even though, by the way, you elo boosted for me. I mean, that's just one of those classic, like, with friends like these, who needs enemies? Like, fuck me. I just want to make a general point here, actually, come to think of it. This is why online friends are so overrated. Like, I get that the term friend, much like superstar, just gets used a lot more liberally nowadays. If you just talk to someone a bit, they're your friend. If you like them, they're your friend. If you've talked to them once or twice and you go along all right, they're your friend. Whereas in real life, that's an acquaintance. That's the term we used to use for that. Someone you know a bit, or someone is in a similar circle to you, or you know them a little bit, but you haven't got to know them that well. Friend, again, is supposed to be reserved for someone you know pretty well, you trust, you get along with, you kind of have an idea of what they're like as a person. This person obviously wasn't much of a real friend towards Choi. In fact, I'm assuming he's just an online acquaintance to a degree here. I mean, if he's a friend, okay, even if you have an argument with a friend and things go badly with a friend, you have like a fight with them even, years later, okay, you meet up, you know, you're having some drinks, you're like, do you remember the old times, you're reminiscing, you're having like, you laugh about what went wrong before, the bad things, because you're friends now, you got past it, you understand each other. Do you really think these guys are going to meet up in like 10 years? Fucking, the guy what was it? That the Choi guy is going to be like, oh yeah, remember that time you cost me my whole career, right when the big money was just kicking in and LMS had started and we'd gotten away from all those shitters from Vietnam and stuff. We were in our big league, and I was actually on a decent team. You know, I had a chance to start making some money, get some. Hey, I could have gotten to a Worlds again, like, you know. You remember that time you totally fucked me over there, even though I like did you a favour, you didn't pay me, I was in a lot of trouble. Like, the best of times. Yeah, they really were the best of times, weren't they? We've really grown as friends since then. Yeah. Like, I don't think that's going to happen somehow. So that's just classic to me that he's called a friend there. Okay, next one. Okay, this one, there wasn't even a comment. It was just a thread, and it was called the best LCS games of Season 5 so far. Now, luckily it said LCS games, so I was like, whew. Because that now means that when it's full of LCS games, it wasn't just best games, and I see barely any, none of them for LPL, and barely any from LCK/OGN. I don't have to get tilted that people actually think that like C9 CLG was better than anything from Korea, like SKT Jin. So that's fair enough. You know, I haven't been triggered yet, but just that title alone, I was already a little bit worried, because I do remember some of the old threads, especially before a lot of people watched Korea, like especially before it was for free, where people, like, you could know before you even opened the threads, it'd be like, remember that time that Expeke did that backdoor, the best game ever, I think, and then people like, CLG versus TSM, the crowd were on their feet. The chanting, I'll never forget. And the minions, Nien is a hero of our generation. Like, I mean, they always pick the most fucking pleb, most obvious, overplayed, overrated game that's like all right, but people just went way too far. It was even good, but people went way too far, like, because they haven't seen many games themselves, making it like the greatest game ever. So I'm just glad that didn't happen here. Actually, this thread was pretty good. Had some good suggestions in it. If you want to watch some of the best games, I'd go to that thread and have a look up. So, okay, here's another one. This is actually one where, in looking up something else, researching something, I found a comment in an old thread, which was actually on a piece of mine, which was when I'd done a video that was about TSM's reliance on preparation, a video, Thorin's thoughts. And if you remember the concept of the video, the whole I outlined two patterns. One is that every time TSM had normal preparation, where you prepare in advance for someone you haven't played, and then you play them the first time, TSM would lose. In fact, now, since then, I updated this stat, and I found that it's like 13 out of 17 times that they've lost that first time when they're first meeting someone with the, in theory, the best preparation, the real prep. Now, what's interesting is that's terrible as a pattern, but then I found, directly connected to it in a way, a secondary pattern, which was a positive, which is that even though they lost the 13 out of 17, in almost every single case, they then won the next game. So it's like their normal preparation of the build-up when you haven't played them, and then the preparation after game one, the preparation that comes directly from knowing what went wrong in game one, and then figuring out the short amount of time to prepare something to change for game two. They were amazing at that aspect. And so it's like, Loco's done a shit job here, but he's done a great job over here. Now, here's the comment that this guy says, okay, in this thread. And this is a highly upvoted one, had 111 points. It's almost as if ellipsis, ellipsis, ellipsis. You guys won't know what I mean. Dot, dot, dot. If you study, dot, 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 you do well on a test, dot, dot, dot. So fucking weird, dot, dot, dot. Who does that? Now, he thinks they're like, nailed it. Oh, fucking roasted him, mate. It was a roasting session. He can't possibly come back to that. Now, here's the problem. As I just outlined there, as far as I can tell, this guy who has 111 points on his comment just looked at the title of the video and is responding to the title of the video and didn't watch it at all. Now, first of all, that's just hilarious in itself, because you're talking about like preparing and doing well on test. You didn't even watch this, mate, and you've attempted to give like an authoritative, interesting opinion, which actually has no merit, no value to it. Because think about it, you're literally in your comment, the sarcastic comment, facetious comment, how it's almost as if you study for a test, you do well on it. You've actually given exactly the wrong example, because the main initial point I make is that when the equivalent of having a test coming up that they study for, that's the one they always fail. So actually it's the opposite what you think. Yeah, you know what, they're studying loads for this test and they're doing really badly. They're failing the majority of the time on it. They don't know how to effectively study, and they're terrible when they try studying. You've made my point for me in an indirect way. That is the expectation, mate. Therefore, it's ironic that they don't succeed in that scenario, because they're getting that situation. I mean, if I take your analogy and I make it better, that's like if when you fail the first test, they say, right, well, you can take a different version of that test. So it's going to be like similar type of test, like sorts of questions, but we're going to change the actual questions so you won't know exactly. And you can retake it tomorrow. And you've only got one day, but knowing now what you fucked up on and which ones you were poor on, you do a bit of work and you manage to raise your mark a bit. And now you have like a passing mark. That's like what TSM's doing now, which is absolutely nothing like this guy's original example. It reminds me of an old saying that used to be when I was a kid, which goes, you're never as stupid as when you think you're being smart. And the idea there is, like, you haven't thought it all through, so you think you're just nailing someone, but actually you're just showing yourself to be an absolute cretin who either hasn't seen the video or didn't even interpret the basic argument of the other person before you mocked and attempted to argue against it and were completely wrong and got totally mischaracterized it. So that's just some classic Reddit right there. So this one's from Modern Thread. Faker answers to questions from Twitter. So this comment says, this is where someone said about how like there was like a Vortic comment, or he replied to a comment by Vortic, and someone said, is it actually the same guy? I assumed there was a cult of Vortic that spreads the words and teachings of their founder Vortic, but damn, that takes some commitment to be on Facebook as well. Now, mate, I'm just going to talk to you directly here. It actually, is that really Vortic? It doesn't matter if that's Vortic. Like, that actually, here's the thing, mate. It doesn't matter if that's really Vortic, because as you kind of like implied here, Vortic's comments mainly kind of shit. And they're very generic and they're so formulaic that actually anyone could make an account with an extra V, and it'd be hard to tell until you checked, did you do diligence on the username? It'd be hard to check if it was the real Vortic, because it's such a one-line gimmick joke that's repeated over and over and over and over again that actually I don't think it's a whole lot of commitment. I guess he's got a bit above and beyond doing it, and it's fairly easy to do this, right? I mean, the reason why I get it doesn't matter, mate. I wouldn't worry yourself whether it's a real Vortic, is because that's like someone saying, and then Billy said, that's what she said. And then they're like, wait a minute, but isn't Billy the one who, oh my God, isn't he the one who invented it? That's what she's like, who gives a shit? No one would ever say that. Like, that's what she said, again, is a crap joke that works every now and then, but in general is repeated by morons, and it wouldn't matter if you're the original one. I mean, what would even be the importance of the fact, oh my God, the real guy who said that's what she said first said it. Like, that would be like fucking if you were like, oh my God, was he the guy who invented farting in a jam jar and then asking someone if they can open this jam jar? It's got really tight, like, who gives a shit? The joke in itself's not even that good. Let's not go fucking too detailed on it. So, let me see. Okay, here's just this is just Reddit at its best, mate. So the thread where Diamondprox gives his thoughts on him and his team, and in doing so, he gives the thoughts on, obviously, Forgiven getting banned for toxicity for a few games, and that really fucked Gambit over because they had to just get a last-minute player who actually wasn't even a fucking AD carry. He was a former LCS mid laner, Moops, for Super Hot Crew. Because they couldn't get any AD carries that they knew, or the ones they wanted to, because they had visa issues, so they couldn't get Genji, etc. So the comment says, it's funny that most of the responses to your comment, and even Diamond's writing, misses the point completely. Riot didn't put them in this situation. Forgiven did. When the team was told that Forgiven was under investigation and possible suspension, the team's correct move should have been to immediately bench Forgiven, grab the sub, and continue forward with the sub regardless of the outcome of Riot's investigation. Even if it turned out that Forgiven wasn't being suspended, it's on the team to say, sorry man, we prepared under an assumption that you'll be bench riding for a bit until we can work you back in. In the meantime, how about you work on becoming less of an ass, ? Now that's like his little quote from what they would say. This is him again. Holding on to hope that Forgiven wouldn't be suspended is at best irresponsible and at worst a clear showing of a lack of integrity. Whew, let's keep going. In reality, Riot shouldn't have to suspend players like Forgiven. Their team should be the one throwing that tosser off their team. Riot has to do it because there are teams like this that are apparently okay holding on to teammates that break these kind of rules repeatedly. So, okay, let's just start with this, right? So this guy goes from calling Forgiven an ass to then, like, sentences later, like, impugning the integrity of Gambit as a fucking organisation and then calls Forgiven a tosser. So, I mean, it sounds like one of those classic Reddit situations where it's like, oh my god, that guy is fucking toxic, piece of shit asshole, I hope he dies in a fight. It's like, you know that behaviour you find toxic? Yes, what about it? You're doing it yourself. No, I wasn't though, because I've labelled him toxic, therefore he deserves everything. I am not toxic. Like, man alive, like, are you kidding me, mate? You're as bad as him. You don't even know him. He's playing with people that are frustrating him in games, going off on him. This guy just plays and you're mad that someone's complaining. Like, what? You're as bad as him, if not worse. Also, what a fucking harebrained solution and an outline of what the process Gambit should have done is. So, okay, they hear from Riot that he's being investigated and it's possible he could be suspended. So, what they should do in your world is immediately bench Forgiven, one of the best players on their team and one of the best in his region at his position, and whose play, adapting to their team in the last part of the split, was a big reason why they transformed and became a team able to win games, had a chance to get in the playoffs. So bench him immediately. Immediately start using a sub. Remember, you're not going to get some super duper player, you're going to have to get some fucking sub. Therefore, blowing the whole split, since you're very likely to lose extra games that you won with Forgiven, because you're playing with a sub, and you're going to be much worse, and even having a couple more weeks with the sub probably won't help to be able to beat top-level teams that we're talking about, to stay in fucking LCS, in the playoffs rather. And not only that, that's a totally harebrained scheme that doesn't make any sense whatsoever. You're actually better to go the other way. Gamble that Forgiven doesn't get banned, or that winning the games with him before he gets banned still gives you a chance to get in, which is what they did, and they still almost made it in. Also, you're now blaming one of the victims. Yes, the main victims were the people that Forgiven was being BM'd to. They're the main victims that were taken care of with this solution. You're also blaming another victim of it, which is his employer, who can't watch him 24/7 in solo queue, can't know when he's saying certain things that are apparently so evil that other people apparently were supposed to be aren't doing and aren't being banned for. I don't believe that. I think other people are doing similar stuff, maybe not as often, definitely just as bad though at times. So arbitrarily, they're supposed to know that Riot's going to pick this one guy and do this. So you're blaming the victim again there. The punishment doesn't even work. It works as punishment, like to hurt this person and indirectly now hurt a team as well, and a league, and chances of the competitive integrity of the league. But as a punishment, it only works. As like an actual punishment, as in to be preventative or to rehabilitate the person, does nothing, doesn't do anything like that. Banning this person for these games doesn't suddenly make him then not react angrily when he's in the game, so it doesn't rehabilitate him in any sense. It doesn't prevent it. He's not going to next time when he's about to do it go, oh, I won't do that because I know I could get banned now. He already knows he can get banned. He already knows he can get fined. He already knows all these things are possible. Didn't stop him doing it. So all you're really doing here, you're not doing much to Forgiven. Yeah, you're actually stopping him getting the playoffs and all that sort of thing. You have stopped something there, but you're also fucking his team in the ass, basically, and then being like, haha, it's your fault. Blame him. But you're the one doing this to me. Like, his action didn't mean, again, you've created a situation where you now say you have to do this to me, but actually you could have reacted totally differently. No, because I've decided that's the rule, I now have to fuck you, and so it's his fault. Well, no, he didn't decide that, actually. He wasn't involved in the decision. So again, this is like blaming the victim mentality, and it's siding with the people who are fucking someone else over. Yes, they're dealing with someone else who's doing douchey stuff, but they're also not handling it in the best way themselves. So the idea that you're just on their side 100% is, I mean, this is just ludicrous. I'm not on fucking Gambit's side 100% or Forgiven's, but that's just ridiculous as a scenario there. Also, in general, if there were real policies laid out, as there would be in a real fucking league, not just making shit up on the spot, like, I used to find some of this, but now you're banned for 4 games. What? Who else has had that done before? No one. I can just fuck with you however I want. If there was real policies laid out, like on your second offence, you will be suspended for 3 games, and then pending a review board or something, then at least as soon as Gambit's told, right, we're investigating this guy, then they can be like, oh, and is it likely he's going to be punished? Yeah, we don't know yet. We're investigating, but it seems pretty likely that he's done some bad things. We're going to have to deliberate on that. Yeah, then at that point in time, they at least have a proper heads up that, okay, so the punishment is that he's actually going to be suspended and for 3 or so games. Not just suspended for these many games and at this point in the season and all the rest of it. Then they can make the decisions. At the moment, they got something so vague. How are they meant to make real decisions of that? And then when you get this late, how are they meant to make decisions anyway? Then there's the whole aspect of the fact that I don't think fucking solo queue should interact competitive play anyway. That's an issue where you don't know about this, people in the public. But that's not even the esports people deciding a lot of that stuff. That tends to come from the player review board type, player behavior control unit. I don't know the fucking term within INSEC or whatever. You won't even know that term, INSOC. Decides these things for Riot, but they're not involved with esports, so they're deciding things as if these were just ordinary players and treating them as not players because they're like, got to set an example for the community, even though it's totally different, and now you're fucking up the esports side for that, apparently. So that's a whole other thing anyway. I thought I'd just address that vitriolic post there. So this is from the thread about my article about Bjergsen, actually, as TSM's big brother. So it says, let me see. Okay, this was a comment, actually. At one point, it diverged into a discussion about Dade. And it said about Dade being like a great shot caller who also was a star of the team and all the rest of it. Someone was like saying how good he was and he did this as well as Bjergsen does it. And then this guy replies, yeah, when he's in Samsung Blue they're referring to. Yeah, he also had an ADC who many considered the best, definitely top 2 to 3 at the time. ... I'm sure that helps too. Now, I'll take it at face value. Yes, you're right. Obviously it helps having Deft on the team. That definitely helps. And it definitely just helps. It doesn't necessarily mean that you discounted all that Dade did. It helps him to achieve all that. That's all true. Problem is, the tone I'm getting from this, the implication is it's kind of sarcastically being said as if like, well, he had like a better player than him on his team who was one of the best. I'm pretty sure that like helped him look like he was good. That's like kind of the tone I'm getting from this. So first of all, there's an issue about Dade that drives me crazy. Yes, Dade was some sick shot caller and star player who was playing some of the best play ever at his position. So was Deft as well, by the way. But here's the thing. At the time, he was the main reason why Deft was allowed to become so effective. Deft was very skilled, but Dade's play, the dynamic between how they played within the team fights, set up Deft to be so brilliant. Because Dade was this unreal team fighting player, and on certain champions was a god, especially mechanically. So you add in these factors, and in team fights, when you have a godlike mid laner doing so much damage and being so distracting and so crazy, it's the biggest distraction in League of Legends. So everyone's firing all their shit onto him, focusing, trying to kill him quick so he doesn't just create complete chaos and carnage throughout the team fight, and they're blowing all their cooldowns on him. Meanwhile, it creates some of that space for Deft to be able to sit on the outside, to put in auto attack after auto attack, to stay alive a long time while outputting the maximum damage, which is what Deft was a god at doing. And then every now and then to dodge things, but not to have to dodge as much. So it's the dynamic of what Dade is doing, which allows Deft's job to become easier. I'd give this sports analogy, okay? So in the NBA, one of the reasons early on in Kobe Bryant's career, before he was like a godlike individual player himself, before he was the best individual player, he was a very good player. He was like a top 5, top 10 player in the NBA. But part of the way that he was able to be so successful as a young man, like a 21, 22-year-old, in the team that he played in that won 3 titles, the Lakers with Shaq, was the dynamic of what Shaq did. Because the Shaq and Kobe dynamic was that since Kobe's a perimeter player and Shaquille O'Neal was a center and there was dominant center at the time, basically no one could properly match up one-on-one with Shaq. You couldn't do it. You're going to get fouled out, you're going to get beat up, he's still going to score on you anyway. So as a result, people had to try and gamble, and they had to put them, if you're going to pick who to double team, who to send more help to defense, you're going to send it to Shaq over Kobe because it's just going to yield more points if you give up and put it onto Kobe. So as a result, they gambled onto Shaq. So first of all, Lakers could play inside out. You could throw the ball in, Shaq could get the ball, double team defenders come over, he throws the ball out to Kobe. Now Kobe has one less defender who can even help over on him, maybe no defender on him at all sometimes on certain shots. And now, even though he's a great perimeter player, he's not getting the same defensive coverage as he would later in his career when he didn't have some godlike center and where he was the main threat of the team. So that's helping his game look even better in this particular sense. Because you can't afford to double team on Kobe in this now. So you play off Kobe and it creates space. And now an already very good player, an already top 5, top 10 player in the world, is now able to dominate even more. And now the guy in the middle is dominating still because he's still amazing. And then the guy on the outside is dominating even more. And together now they've got this unbeatable combo that is the dynamic that wins championships. And it did in League of Legends and it did in the NBA. So I hope you kind of understand what I'm getting at there. So there's another comment from the thread, same thread. So this is about SK Telecom this time. It's basically what happened to SKT. He's comparing TSM to SKT. Other players, especially the Samsung teams, caught up. Faker couldn't carry anymore on his own via 1v5 like he used to. The other players slacked and lost synergy, so everyone caught up. Good thing is, SKT gutted the team and they had good backup players waiting. Neither TSM nor any Western team have that luxury, sadly. The game evolved and caught up. The rest of TSM are faltering. Not only their players, but their style as well. They're still playing around and making calls that revolve around one or two players like it was Season 3. Same as to how SKT doesn't play around Faker anymore, or just Faker. If he fails or gets camped, Marin or Bang steps up their playstyle shifts. TSM can't, or won't, do that. It's always up to Bjerg. They need to adapt as a team or they'll get left behind, same way Gambit did. I mean, I wouldn't have brought in Gambit at the end there, mate. You made all these points about TSM and SK Telecom, and then suddenly the Gambit just comes out of nowhere. You already had your analogy. Stick with the SKT one there. Now, what I want to talk about here is, I actually think there's kind of a misconception about SK Telecom in 2014. Because the notion that I made fun of on Some of the Insight many times is that essentially every player except Faker fell off massively, and then Faker fell off a little bit. And so what happened is, one day, they were the best team of all time, undefeated, gods. They woke up the next day and the skill vampires had visited them in the night. And they were all drained, maybe because Faker's like Superman. They couldn't quite get through his skin. So he was only drained a little bit. But everyone else in the team was... and then they were just drained of all their skill. And it turned out, by the way, the other aspect of the joke was the SK Telecom, the skill vampires turned out to be Samsung Blue because most of them went up so much of a level. Now, here's the thing about SK Telecom. First things first, their style wasn't as effective in Season 4. That amazing pick comp style that they were the best at using and exploiting and just ripping teams apart in the mid-game with just wasn't as effective anymore. You saw that actually Samsung Blue, who were the dominant team of the era, were the gods of like playing... the early game champions, late game champions, surviving early game, scaling to late game, and then beating you with crisp rotations, amazing setups of team fighting to get Dade and get Deft going and wrecking you that way. Or it was Samsung White, who were always strong early game, always strong mid game, and then when you had to team fight them, you couldn't. So it was very hard to get picks on these two teams. You saw especially in that final of the, what was it called actually? Oh, Masters, OGN Masters. The final of that where SK Telecom played white and blue. Both games, they're doing their best to get picks. They're doing their best to get in there. They're doing their best to get it. And they just can't do it. You couldn't do it against it. The style wasn't effective. Essentially, their style was countered by the style of the Samsung teams. Then you add in, talking about specific players on the SKT side. So in terms of Piglet dropped off a bit. He didn't drop off massively. Like he was very good in Season 3. He wasn't terrible for all of Season 4. He dropped off definitely towards the very, very end once it was going to shit, especially once he got to that NLB at the end of the year. He was terrible on that one. But otherwise, he still had games where he was good. He had times that he was okay. It was mainly that his lane partner, Pumandu, went to shit. Also, remember the teams that are beating him? I mean, they were always losing to fucking SK Telecom. Basically, the ADCs got a lot better in Korea. You got people like Arrow came along. More than that, you had Deft was now a god. Imp was still fucking amazing. So Samsung teams that are going to beat you anyway also have better players at the ADC position, Imp and Deft. And by the way, for my money, Imp was already better than Piglet in OGN Winter anyway, even when they got wrecked in that final 3-0 by SKT. Imp himself was already a better player, and you could make the case at least. It was debatable, but you could make the case. So then when Piglet dropped off a bit, now Imp's even better, and Imp has a better team, and a better style. Now, also one of the reasons why Piglet was worse is his lane partner, Pumandu, went to shit. If you remember, he took a break because of RSI. They brought in Peekaboo for a while. Then they brought back Pumandu, and Pumandu was never the same again. He was never this brilliant, incredibly versatile, great at playing the Fragile, the Nami, those sorts of champions. Just basically the strength of Pumandu before was a very good player. He wasn't like a god like Matter is at support, but his strength was his champion was so wide and how he would use the champions, knowing how to use them intelligently, that he could pick whatever was the most logical choice to pick to go with Piglet to either cover a weakness or aid a strength. And that's why he essentially facilitated Piglet being a god. Then you go to Impact as a top player. Impact was one of the players who fell off less. He was still pretty decent, but now we came to the era where he could sometimes play carry tops, and he, for some reason, it's like he almost got. I almost feel like he got mad because in the previous year everyone else got an award for being the best at their role, but Flame got the top lane award from Kesper, and Impact didn't. So suddenly he started it seemed like he was almost demanding to play carry tops in an era when, yeah, you could play carry tops, but for his team, you didn't really want carry tops because your threat's the AD carry in mid lane, especially mid lane. And also, you're in a world where people still do play tanks in 2014. They're still playing Trundle and all that shit. Dr. Mundo, all the rest of that garbage. So you're going to have a harder time doing that. It's not going to work as often. So Impact, in some sense, fucked his own style up there. Bengi did just become dog shit. His warding wasn't even as good anymore. Something just went wrong with this guy mentally. He was never super sick as an individual player, but mentally something went wrong with him. And because his whole strength was almost reading the game and knowing where to be at what time, when that sense was gone and fucked, now he just had nothing and he became a very mediocre to bad OGN jungler. And then in terms of Faker, Faker was still a god. He was very good. Now at times he might not have been the best mid. I think Dade was the best mid at times. Also, Faker definitely could not carry as hard. He seemed to have an individual drop a little bit, a tiny bit. He was still very good in the majority of games. Still very rarely had a bad game, except for the odd one against Pawn. Aside from that, he was still very, very good, very polished, very clean, very crisp. Problem is, now he's on these champions, like the fucking farm late game champions, like Ziggs and shit. He's not going to make super outplays like that. He's not going to 1v1 kill someone like he would with a LeBlanc or a Zed. So again, he wasn't on the right champions team. Just remember, whenever you think of that era, that was the era when early on in the season, Copenhagen Wolves was doing all right in Europe in the spring split, and their mid laner was Coutard, and he was just playing these champs, and he didn't even get exposed that hard. That's all that needs to be said. Where the fuck is he now? Enough said. So I thought that was a point to make about SK Telecom. Let me see. Okay. Oh, back in the thread about my Bjergsen's burden. Okay, so this is just because... this actually did get a minus point, so luckily this wasn't upvoted. It said, if only Thorin didn't say racist things to him, then maybe Reggie wouldn't dislike him and Thorin's ego wouldn't make him dislike Reggie. I mean, I've seen that argument so many times in my life, and it's never made sense once. Because remember, the logic is that like me saying racist things is why Reggie dislikes me, and then the fact that Reggie dislikes me is then what upsets my ego, which makes me dislike Reggie. So wait a second, in your chain of events, I then dislike Reggie at the end, therefore why am I saying what you perceive as racist things? I mean, what spurs me to say those things? Presumably, because you say they're racist, that, because he is from, I don't even know still, is it Cambodia, is it Vietnam ethnically, somewhere around there, okay? So because his ethnicity is of that, apparently that's the reason I don't like him. So then I say racist things about him, and then that means Reggie doesn't like me because of that, so then presumably he blacklists me because these people never understand the chronology. And then it hurts my ego, so then it makes me dislike him. You got it all the wrong way around there, mate. You ready? Let's go the other way. So Thorin dislikes Reggie, and that makes Reggie dislike Thorin, and then Thorin, and then Reggie likes Thorin, and then Thorin says, inverted commas, racist things to him. That was the actual order, mate. You got it ass backwards completely. You got it completely wrong there. You messed the whole thing up there. Also, just as a side note, by the way, actually Reginald blacklisted me from doing content with TSM before I'd ever said anything publicly about him. I'd never ever said any stuff publicly. I was blacklisted from doing content with them at the end of 2013. Now, for context, Summoning Insight didn't exist then. It was invented, I think, in like February of 2014. Thorin's Thoughts didn't exist then. I'd never written an opinion piece about TSM or anything like that. The majority of my pieces to that point in time were articles about the history of teams, were grilled interviews. I might have started Reflections then, I think. And this is when he was banned. It had nothing to do with what I've done or anything like that. Just for whatever reason he didn't like me, I don't know. Then I already disliked him, by the way, before that, long before that. Again, he wouldn't publicly know it. I had no way of knowing that. So he started the whole chain of events that I started all this stuff. So just get the chronology right there, mate. I just thought I'd address that. So let me see. Okay, there's a video. It was called The Peace Pigeon, The Curious Case of Xiao Wei Xiao. Now, this was a video where Xiao Wei Xiao got banned for elo boosting. And so I click on this video thinking, this is pretty highly voted. This must be a funny video. And it is just fucking terrible. This is just appalling. This is like the fucking meme generation gone wrong. This is an aberration that this is considered comedy and is popular in any sense. Like, I don't know the guy making it. I'm talking about the fact that people are upvoting this shit. Like, this was fucking terrible. Like, when I watched this, like, I'm just like, are you guys out here actually real people? Am I stuck in some sort of fucking virtual reality MMO that I've woken up in, that my consciousness was downloaded into, like fucking Tron, and I mistake it for reality, but you're all actually NPCs, fucking non-player characters, and you're all like, I took an arrow to the knee. It's like, shut the fuck up. Like, I've heard that a million times. Like, what's going on here? Is this stuff in this video funny to you guys? It was like 10 seconds in, I remember thinking like, God, this better really take a turn soon, because like, what even is this? It's just nothing. It's like a bad joke topped on another bad joke, on another bad joke, on another bad joke, and then trying to hope that the last one saves it, but there's no way it possibly could, it doesn't, and wow, my God, why have I just watched this whole video? That's what this video for. Like, this is an example of the sort of content where, listen, I don't begrudge a guy making it, I just think it's shit, and I don't know why people enjoy it, so I'm complaining about it now. Okay, this was a thread about, let's see, the World's Finals tickets sold out in 15 minutes for lower. Maybe that means like lower area or something. So this guy says, at this time of year, the football season is on. Champions League and Euro League start at this time too. So many big stadiums are not available. Furthermore, the weather at that time in Europe is not as warm as in, let's say, South Korea. Therefore, you need stadiums/locations with a closed roof. This makes lesser locations available. Additionally, this is what Megas said. We learned a lot. I'll skip through all that. That's just a bunch of stuff about how they learned about the event. Anyway, so about this stadium particularly, for Doc Pullman specifically, we'll have around 1,500 fans each day, but all of the group stages will be there, so that'll be 2 weeks of games, 8 days. TLDR: smaller packed venues deliver a far greater amount of energy both to the live audience and also to the home audience. Bigger isn't necessarily better. Actually, that's what Megas was basically saying. He thinks that like smaller areas help, and indoor ones help like capture the crowd energy and all that shit. So anyway, bigger isn't necessarily better. We're happy with the venues you selected this year for Worlds, and we think you'll enjoy the event whether live or at home. And then this guy then adds on himself, and I personally have to agree that the atmosphere last year at Worlds was definitely not as good as, for example, All Stars 2014 in Paris. Now, first of all, this guy doesn't mention this, which is suspicious. He doesn't mention that he went to Worlds and to All Stars Paris. He doesn't even mention if he went to either of those. Now, since he's in Europe, let's give him the benefit of the doubt and assume he went to All Stars Paris. How does he know that the atmosphere was better there than at Worlds? Presumably, he means on the stream, which, for that, by the way, is like pretty hard to know anyway. And secondly, if the atmosphere isn't as good on stream, okay, it's true it might not be as good in the venue, in which case nothing Riot can do. But that could also be a failure of Riot in terms of how they mic'd up the crowd, what camera angles they used. Maybe the atmosphere there was fucking bomb and they just didn't translate it very well. That's not even considered as an option here. It's just assumed that it wasn't as good as All Stars, which is okay. I don't really follow that logic. There's also the issue that Worlds in Korea was held in the fucking World Cup stadium that they built in like for the 2002 World Cup for the football team there in Seoul. That's a fucking bomb-ass stadium. And from what I saw, it looked incredible. And from what I saw on stream, it looked fucking amazing. It looked like a way bigger atmosphere, way cooler atmosphere than past Worlds that I've seen. Now, again, how does this guy know if he wasn't there? The reason why I bring this up is because I suspect the guy just hasn't been to Korea, and maybe it's true. Maybe to him it wasn't shown the same way, so there wasn't the same energy and excitement. And maybe Megas agrees. So the reason this is confusing to me is because I have to think it's a Riot issue here, because I've watched all the OGN finals in League of Legends, and on stream that looks fucking amazing, right? When they do those crowd shots, it's da 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 da, and then that guy like whatever the fuck that guy's saying, I don't even know, Caster Juno, whatever his name is, whatever that guy says, yeah, that's hype as fuck, and everyone's like, oh my god, this is incredible, the atmosphere. It makes it feel like, wow, the finals are very different to a semi-final which take place in the booths in the stadium, etc. So okay, here's the thing, I've also been to 2 OGN finals. I went to both of the spring ones, the one in spring 2013 where Ozone wrecked Blaze, and I went the one in 2014 spring where Shield got wrecked by Blue. And I have to say, in person, it's even better. But it does translate very well on stream. Like, in person, it's fucking amazing. Because they always choose these indoor venues as well. They just choose sort of like a big warehouse with a super high ceiling. They have all... But first of all, the lighting's awesome. There's very little lighting. It's all super dark. And then they have these spotlights shining around. And then these massive screens, 2 or 3 huge screens. And then the way the players are set up. And they always have this rehearsed intro where they're all like spinning around. Like... Deft. It's like, all sorts of insane levels of shit. They go to a fucking amazing production level. So having seen that and knowing that they've been doing that for years and years, I think if there is a problem there, I'm not sure there is, I think maybe that's just that Riot has to learn how to do that better. And if I were there, by the way, maybe just hire people who've done that shit and get them a fucking advisory team. It'd be obvious to me. Because I went to those OGN finals, and the atmosphere there was way better than Season 3 World Championship, which was in the fucking Staples Center in Los Angeles. I went to that as well, and was in a similar sort of seat. And the OGN finals were way better atmosphere. And by the way, I'm not even sure which had more, but I know one of the OGN finals I went to had like 10,000 people there. So, yeah, take from that what you will. Okay, so let me see. Okay, there's a thread called Doublelift ends the regular season in like number 1 in GPM kills, like all these stats that Doublelift was like top 2 in, etc. So the guy makes this comment that says, let me see. Okay, because people address the fact that, like Doublelift's never won anything, and like people say he's toxic. So this guy goes, CLG's new coach has also said he hasn't found any I should really say the points that these comments have got. This one has 9 points. I should have mentioned some of the other ones actually. I forget. I'll do that in future episodes if there are any, if I keep doing this. So CLG's new coach has also said he hasn't found any of the old attitude problems people said he should expect. I think Doublelift is also no longer an 18 to 19-year-old and laning with Zen Master Afro and not being the only lane that communicates with his jungler anymore and having proper support staff all have helped him calm down. Moses, smell the roses. What the fuck? It's like these guys, I understand after being around esports how politicians, when you see some politician who's just so obviously it's a fake smile and he's so full of shit and he's done criminal stuff before, but he's winning over all the new people who don't know much about politics, haven't investigated him, haven't read up on him. They're just meeting him now and they're like, oh, the things he says, he just connects with the youth of today and he understands what people want and he's a good working man who's going to represent the Christian values. And you're just like, how are you falling for this shit? He's just telling you what you want to hear. This is the same shit again. Every season you guys say this. Oh, this time Doublelift improved he's rehabilitated, he's a toxic individual, and now he believes in his teammates and trusts them. And this new coach, the one that's not Monty Scara's implemented a new system, he's getting along better. Oh, Scar, did that go to shit? Yeah, forget about Scara. The new coach, the Clemson guy, he's actually got through to Doublelift. He's got a mentor-protege relationship, and Doublelift turned around. Listen, he's not 18, 19 anymore. Yeah, okay, let's go with that line actually. Not 18, okay, I don't know how old is he. Is he 20 now? Is he 21? Okay. What's changed in those 2 years? I know he's played a fuck ton of solo queue. I know he's lost a bunch of times. Last season he had some of these problems. So that wasn't to do with this year. He was only 3 months, 6 months ago that this happened. So what happened in those months? Probably not much. Maybe something did happen. Maybe he did rehabilitate a bit. Maybe having a new teammate helped. Maybe all these things. Maybe things were exaggerated before. Maybe you're exaggerating them now. That's what I'd suggest. In both angles, by the way. I've already made my points about Doublelift in the massive long link video that I did. Link's Tiny Violin. Classic. Number 1 on my channel. Love you, Link. Cheers for that. Cheers for the ad revenue, bud. So the problem with this post here is it just is too sycophantic. It just goes so far to believe everything. Like Doublelift's totally not this toxic guy anymore. It's because he's older, so got older, wiser. He lanes with Aframu. He's laned with him for fucking tons of splits, all except one, in fact. Yeah, but this time it's different. Okay, mate. I mean, again, I don't know why that would be. And he's not the only lane now who communicates with his jungler. Zion Spartan was in his team last season. Shit, forgot about that. Also, Link was the fucking shot caller and said he tried to communicate with people and they wouldn't communicate back. I'll ignore that. Okay, anyway, and then now he has a proper support staff that have helped him calm down. I mean, where does that speculation even come from? How have they helped him calm down? I mean, the players themselves in CLG, every split early on would say the same shit. The new coach has helped us a lot where we trust him, and now I believe in my teammates. I've got to stand up for them, and we get on so well. And then at the end of the season, it's always like, fuck this guy, fuck this guy, fuck this guy. Oh my God, you did it wrong. Blame. So first of all, this split isn't even over, mate. Let's wait until it's over before we draw these strong conclusions, right, about how people have changed their life in the space of 6 months and whatnot. So yeah, that just fucking defies belief, doesn't it? Let me see, what else? Okay, here's one. So, the title of the thread was, does anyone else find it amazing how much, and I think it was like something like, how much we've learned about this game? And the comment said, the top thread, OP rather, does anyone else find it amazing how much knowledge we all gained to play this game? 123 champions, each with at least 4 abilities and a passive. Okay, mate. 100 items or so, and we know all of them. I just think this is amazing every time I stop to think about it. Oh, that was the title. That fucking massive thing was the title. And then his comment was, I just think this is so amazing every time I stop thinking about it. First of all, just because you stop and you have a thought, mate, you don't have to let us know. Like, thoughts, they're supposed to just happen all the time. Some of them you dismiss, you let float on by, like you're lying in a stream and a leaf comes by. A leaf, everyone, leafs are amazing. Like, okay, calm down. This is almost some like double rainbow level shit here. Also, it just cracked me up the whole way it was phrased. Like, it's amazing, isn't it? We know it all. 123 because it was like some fucking like, I could imagine a little kid like this, like, oh my god, I know everything about Pokemon. 151 Pokemons in the original. You fucking new school figlets. 151 Pokemons. Oh my god. Oh, by the way, what's even worse is I already know now. Here's a Pigeon Piece or whatever your name was. If you want to make some ad revenue, mate, what you do now is you get this video and take what I just said here and you pause it and you're like, he said 151 Pokemon. Pokemans, how some people say it. Pokemon. We are both like Pokemon and Pocky. They eat Pocky because they think it makes them more Japanese. And to show that they know about this wonderful, actually quite overrated shit basic treat that they eat and import, to show other people like, don't you know about Pocky? I love it. It is my favourite food. Must be a connection here because we are both eat Pocky and eventually become men. Pocky men, Pokemon. Ooh, gotta go deeper. And then if you do that, mate, don't cut this section out of this video because I want that ad revenue. I might make my own video, mate. I might just I'm gonna scoop up your bitch and all your chips and stack that shit up, okay? Get off my turf. Anyway, next, let's see what else I had. I have a whole bunch, and if I can text file, I'm just trying to find them. Okay, here's one. This is in the same thread. So in the thread where everyone's marveling about how much they know about champions. Okay, mate. So, I mean, by the way, I don't know if you're aware of this, but like generally in life, you get to know things about things, and knowing like the names of 123 champions and then knowing 2 or 3 things about them doesn't sound like that much. It sounds like the very basics of starting to learn a language, learning about fucking, toy trains, watching a sport. It just sounds like everyday life to me. I'm not sure it is actually that amazing. You might have oversold it there. But anyway, here's another comment. Only has 2 points. Up until about 3 or 4 months ago, I was approaching the final 5 champions to buy, so I decided to get Swain. Playing the game for so long, I honestly still did not know anything about Swain at that point. Bought him, ... People love ... apparently in the sort of comments I replied to. Bought him, ... Went 24-1, first game ever with him, ahaha, ... And I still have no idea what Swain does. Now, first of all, mate, that is a fucking great story. That is a banger, that one, mate. I'm glad you brought that up because you'll be dining out on that story for fucking years to come, I can just tell. Now, here's a general point I want to make here, mate. Here's a general problem with League of Legends I've noticed. I'm sure when you hear me say this, you're going to notice it yourself. So since you notice it yourself, try and see if you also do this yourself and don't do it, because it'd be like a really great benefit to the community, okay? So here's a PSA. No one gives a shit about your stories, about things that happen to you playing in solo queue by yourself or without the person you're telling the story to. Those stories really are stories where you had to be there. The fact that you were there, to be honest, though, either you're all shit storytellers or they're just not good, because it's always some crap where it's like we don't know the context of like who was the Vayne that did that to you and why didn't the Soda do that. We don't even know if you tell the truth that you might just be full of shit and the Soda might be fucking balling out of control in the lane, keeping your dumb ass alive while you're just popping in there and get your head wrecked by Poppy or some shit. I think I just said Poppy just because I just said popped. Whatever. Onomatopoeia, bitch. So yeah, I mean that story is just fucking unreal, isn't it? It's like guys. So, great story. Gather around, children. Be quiet, please. A toast. I've got a little story I like to tell at this time of year. It's a particular classic of mine, something of a party piece. So, I was playing League of Legends, 123 champs in the game. I was down to my last 5, as you do, you know. You've played all the rest. You've enjoyed them. You know, you've had a little Master Yi. You've Mordecai'd your ass up. You've made it through the depravity of a Vagina playing phase. You know, you bottom it out. You reached rock bottom. And you come to those last 5 champions, you know, we've all been there. And you buy one of those last 5 champions, and you know what? I go for Swain. No one even plays Swain, right? Who plays Swain? Apparently I do. At least that's what I thought to myself. So I buy Swain, and I don't know if you're like me, but I don't even look up champions or abilities, what they do. I just go into games and start, ranked, don't worry, yeah, it was definitely ranked, because fuck my team, right? I'm having fun, it's something new. So I go into there, and they all didn't know how to play around Swain anyway. I think I fed for some reason because they didn't hold me. Fucking idiots. So they probably also don't know about Swain. Idiots. Look it up. So I was in there, hadn't looked it up. I was playing Swain, and You're not going to believe this. In this, we don't know ranked or normal, because I'm not saying here, and we don't know what type of opponents, we don't know anything about the game. I only go and dominate, don't I? I only go and get 24-1, as I do. Bloody hell, I'm crazy, man. I'm just cray. So I only go and dominate 24-1, and you know what? You're probably thinking to yourself, I'm a very good player right now. I still don't even know what Swain does. And all the people around him like, you tell the best stories, man. No story. Can you tell me, Grandad, can you tell me the Swain story that Uncle told me about? Well, maybe when you're older and you own at least 100 champions, maybe I could. Like, fuck me, this story's just terrible, mate. Just as a social kind of cue there, don't ever tell that story again, even in League of Legends thread. It wasn't a good one, okay? So, okay, here's the thread where it's pretty juicy, actually. OMG is now the most hated club in China. And it's some shit like people were flaming each other back and forth, and now Uzi I's benched and they're using North instead. So apparently it said Cool flamed Uzi I. He's called Uzi I, by the way. Get triggered. Cool flamed Uzi I a few weeks ago on stream, complaining that the so-called world's #1 takes away jungle pressure. What happened next was Uzi I to the bench. OMG started playing like shit, including getting 0-22, I assume he means in kills there, by EDG. Now, first of all, it's fucking beautiful. I was so rock hard when it said that Cool himself was like, so-called world #1. It's like Cool's actually like a fucking member of China Talk. I'm loving it, dude. This is brilliant. Like, high five to Kelsey Mose and all those guys. So even Cool's like, Uzi I, you are overrated as fuck. I wish Name was in here. You can't, like, love it. Also, I've got to just like, I go the other way, like SI style, and just be evil and go like, Cool must know nothing about Chinese region. Doesn't he know Uzi I has been through world finals? So yeah, anyway, then they have a comment that's translated by a fan that says, fuck you. This is too cool, by the way. Fuck you. Could you please stop letting Noob Cool play? You spent so much money on buying support. Can't you buy a mid? Let Cool sit. Even if going and Uzi I aren't playing, I am fine. Cool is cancer. First of all, that's like classic. Like, it's good to know that Chinese, whatever they have instead of Reddit, I don't know, QQ or some shit, or Weibo, whatever they have, it's just as fucking bad as Reddit. Like, there's people doing the same shit like you, like, fuck you, die, you should never play again, everyone is a cunt except me, you are cancer and toxic. Wait a minute, that seems rather toxic. We are doing. No, you are the toxic. I am not toxic. I am not. Anyway, you see, classic. Even in China, it apparently goes on over there. Well, you know, when in Rome. So, also, that's just ridiculous, by the way. Like, Cool's obviously entirely with his rights. Also, Cool's one of the fucking best players ever from China, by the way. Like, check yourself before you wreck yourself. And he's an amazing mid. And I suppose you can't buy better mids unless they're fucking, very likely unless they're Korean for a start off. So, in the same thread, we have a comment, 10 points. It says, okay, so again, these threads always digress into some other shit. So then people start talking about Forgiven, because they're trying to contrast Uzi I with Forgiven, because they're both of this carry mentality. People say they're toxic. Someone says, 10 points. Difference is, Forgiven can't carry 4 noobs, 2 worlds, but Uzi I can. Fuck me. It's like they're trying to, it's like, if that was real trolling, then I'd give them credit. Like, you got me. You triggered me. You got me. But I know that's like a real statement. So, let me just make this very clear for you, okay, mate? Uzi I did not carry any fucking noobs to Worlds. Now, he did in a sense, in as much as, compared to the best players in the entire world, like compared to SK Telecom, Tabe wasn't very good. The jungler Lucky was like average at best. But compared to other teams that went to Worlds, those players are fine. They're just as fine as some of the players from other regions. Some of the other players weren't super duper mega awesome that went. I mean, fucking Zuna went from NA, so there's players that Odd One went who wasn't very good at that point in time. There's a lot of players went, okay, who weren't super gods. So compared to those players, definitely not noobs, unless you're calling fucking Odd One a noob at the time. I don't think many people would, especially not this sort of a guy. Secondly, he definitely did not ever carry noobs to the finals. The first Starhorn Royal Club, if you remember, one of the main ways they beat Fnatic wasn't just Uzi I being very good. He was good, but actually the bot lane did alright that time, Yellow Star and Pukshu. One of the main ways that they beat Fnatic was Godlike was just awesome in terms of wrecking on Jax, forcing Soaz, who was playing fucking Zac, to just have to go all over the place to combat it, And then the real problem was mid lane, Expeke got wrecked in laning phase. He constantly got fucked with, counterpicked again and again. And Whites wasn't a god, but he had a very unique strength that he was awesome at knowing all the mid lane champions to be able to counterpick someone. And crucially, he was sick at laning phase. Wasn't so great in team fighting, but they had Uzi to clean up in team fighting. But he was so good at this one specialty. So actually that team, the way it was put together and the way it was actually set up so that they all played a supportive role to a degree to Uzi to make him and facilitate him to be the ultimate carry was what made them really good. But the idea that he was just on a team with noobs and he carried them is ridiculous. And then the second star of Royal Club, get the fuck out if you're saying those guys are noobs. Zero was really good at that point in time. He was one of the best performers at that Worlds. He was really very good. I think to me he was like the second or third, probably the second best support in the whole tournament behind Mata. That's how fucking sick he was. I think he even outperformed Hart. It was absolutely amazing. Okay, Kohler, admittedly, let me think. Actually, it's Korn I'm thinking of. Korn's the mid laner. The problem with Korn was he did absolutely fine at this tournament, but he was a guy where he just played, like, they just put him on Orianna so he could facilitate, protect double-lift style Uzi comps. Okay, he did okay, but he wasn't that great, I'll admit. And he's been quite shit since they put him on carry champs. Then you go to Insec. Now, Insec was actually in a peak revival of his career. It wasn't his absolute best, but he was getting pretty good again in that last sort of 2 months when he was at Worlds, when he got to Worlds, when they got through the gauntlet type thing to get to Worlds. He was doing pretty well. And aside from people like Dandy, he was actually one of the best junglers in the tournament. Had some sick games. He even showed like a Fiddlesticks game that he won on against OMG. It was pretty sick stuff. And then the one guy who's always underrated is Kohler, the top laner. This guy was legit. He could play some fucking champions, mate. Don't talk shit on Kohler if you haven't seen his career. He's definitely not a noob. He's one of the better top laners in China at the time. And he matched up quite well in that tournament. So, let me see. Then someone like supports Insec and say, you know, like, well, they're very good. And let me see. And somehow it then gets later. Okay, here's what's great. When people then are talking later on about players who didn't get to Worlds, they say, this is in contrast, they assume, to people bigging up Uzi because he made all those Worlds, so that's the only thing that matters. Yeah, someone says like it's the only tournament that matters, which obviously it isn't. It's the most important, but it's not the only one that matters. And by the way, I'd even debate it's the most important. I think OGN's better than on Worlds, or at least OGN was last season when it was super stacked. To me, those are more important than Worlds. But okay, it's the most important, doesn't mean it's the only important. That's a key distinction. But there's this comment someone says here, which is bang on the money, because he just satirizes the kind of stupid comments that people make about Worlds in that sense, and Uzi particularly. 15 points. Yeah, so that Wei Zhao guy, so overrated. Only placed 5th to 8th once at Worlds. Ha, who the hell cares about other tournaments like IPL 5? That Dade guy is lucky he got to the semi of Worlds before he went to China. 2 OGN wins and 2 second places, including back-to-back finals and ultimate carry performances with a unique style, would have meant nothing without that one World semi. Oh man, that Flame guy. You know he's only ever gotten one final in OGN and a WCG win. Never even been to Worlds. How crap is he? Cacao only has an OGN win and a final, where he got the MVP of the season in the winning season. It's a good job he didn't get to Worlds because he's not a top 5 jungler ever. What a stupid and base statement that is. I cut out a sarcastic void because now he's not being sarcastic. What a stupid and base statement that is. Sure, Worlds counts the most, except probably for IPL 5, which would count more than Season 2 Worlds in most people's books, agreed. But everything else does actually count. Nobody is going to argue Pushu or Woong is a greater AD carry in history than Wei Xiao. Dade is the second best mid in history. Lucky over Cacao and Diamond Procs. Lupa over whoever the hell you like from the elite Korean teams. Yeah, agreed. That's absolutely bang on. And then there was a comment later on, by the way, when people are addressing like all the comments about what Cool said. Someone put, this honestly just sounds like one side of the story. Yeah, it is, because it's one person's opinion, mate. So, I mean, I don't even know what kind of statement that is. The idea, it's just like a trend that is out there, which is that if you only know one side of the story, yeah, it's true, you don't have all the sides of the story, you don't have all the information, but you can make judgments off that, or you can take speculations off that. That is true. And also, it's not the case that, because you're lacking another side, you can't have enough pertinent information. Put it this way, let me tell you this, okay? Say someone's telling you, and then in World War II, the Nazis did this, and then Hitler did this, and they made these decisions, and someone just puts their hand up like, but miss, can we really say Hitler was a bad guy and made bad decisions for the human race, though? Because do we have all of his side on all of this? And he's not here to speak for himself, is he? That wouldn't be like a legitimate argument to not discuss it or to make judgments about what he did and the reasons why, etc. Yeah, you don't have all the information, but you have a lot of pertinent information. You have information pertinent enough to make decisions off. So don't ever go with that thing of like, there's two sides to every story. Wrong. What about stories where there's 10 people involved? Are there only two sides to that? Doesn't even fucking make sense, does it? And also, again, you don't have to have every side of the story. What if you had 10 people and you had 9 of the stories but not the one? You still don't have one guy's story, which is the problem with the other one. Why is that the problem now? Also, different people's stories have more weight. It's the information they give, the facts, how involved they were. It's not like this whole thing of it's only half the story, what you've been told, what's the other half? That's almost as bad as the logic when idiots say like, it's 50-50 chance, either happens or it doesn't. It's like, wait a minute, we're talking about winning the lottery? Yep, you either win it or you don't, so I've got a 50-50 chance. Like, I can't handle that, mate. People like you should be like brain donors or something. So, okay, there's a video. Again, this isn't a comment, it's just about a video. CLG Zion Spartan, 20 questions for HyperX. So, first of all, I'd just like to say, it was pretty funny answers. I thought he was very deadpan. His sarcasm was really good. Seems like an interesting guy, actually. I like his play. I think he's quite an interesting character. Seems quite level-headed compared to a lot of the others. But in every video, especially these HyperX ones, they have to have these parts in where he just starts singing. And I don't know if you've seen these videos. You've got to see it just once. His singing is always that sort of fucking like American Idol type, a very American style of singing where you go super ham on every single aspect. So it'll always be like, it always just comes out of nowhere. Like it'll always just start like, and then you walk in that door and you say to me, ooh, baby, and I'm gonna love you right now. Just like the looks on his face. Just unreal. It's like some fucking when they pan the camera up in porn or something, like, yeah, just like that's like the looks on his face, and then just how it's not bad to get into it, right? If you should get into singing, passionate, but why does everything have to be like just all over the fucking octave? And then worst of all, no one else. Listen, I think he's a cool guy, but no one else even seems to think this is funny or like over the top. Everyone else is like, oh god, he has the voice of an angel. I can't handle it, mate. I just can't fucking handle it. How can I be the only one who's seeing how bad that is? Okay, I think we're getting towards the end. There's a few more for this one. Let me see. Okay, this is just a classic one. So in the TSM Legends, the latest episode 23, someone with 548 points, so mega upvoted, is replying to someone that said, other junglers are willing to die for their teammates, which apparently I guess what Reggie said to Thorin. And he says, finally, someone in the staff said it. Thorin's playstyle is too selfish and that needs to change. Well, fuck me, mate. How rich is this? These are like the same sort of people who, when TSM was winning IEM and winning NALCS, were like, you're all haters if you don't say Thorin is not only the best NA jungler, but the best in the West. His style is the sickest and he reads the game like a god. Now, he's playing similar fucking style, by the way, doing similar shit. And suddenly you're like, it was always flawed. I'm glad someone had the balls to come out and say it. And say, you're the ones who would have fucking attacked people who said it. You wanted to put him above all those other guys. Rush, I will dominate, move. I guess move wasn't there at the time, but you know what fans are like. Actually, that doesn't even make sense. I'll retract the last statement. Remove that from the court record, stenographer. Okay, let me see. Let me see. Okay, so there was a thread. I don't think I'll make this much longer. This is a fucking insanely long episode. I didn't realise how long it was, actually. So there was a thread about I will dominate firing shots at Smithy featuring Bjergsen, which, by the way, the video in itself is just nothing. He just says, like, I think he sucks, which, well, he does. And compared to I will dominate, he definitely sucks. So, end of story. Doesn't mean he can't play. Doesn't mean he can't be a part of a winning team. He's just not that good a player. Okay. So then someone makes this comment, which is more classic Reddit brand, not toxicity, but definitely toxicity. -1 point when I got this. Saint's a dick. I was a mod in his stream simply because I asked nicely and promised not to be fair or impartial in my moderating. If that's true, and he actually did say that, he's not actually like drunk when he said this now, and he purposely said like, I won't be fair and impartial, and Saint was like, you're my kind of guy, I like the cut of your jib, Sonny. That's hilarious in itself. I love that already. I'm already starting to love this Saint character. Then one day, I got a little drunk, which I guess I was when he made me a mod too, lol. It's like, first of all, so many times, as we've learned from Link's thing. When you put like lol and stuff like that in, it just doesn't come off well when it sort of is in the middle of a conversation, you know? It doesn't work so well in text. I wouldn't go with the lol if I were you. So he says that he was drunk and started a discussion. I like the way he says it as though like, I mean, he's just in his stream. He's like, even though we're all here to watch this guy playing and react to it, let's have a little philosophical debate. This is a fucking Greek salon, right? Where we will discuss the finer points of philosophy and rhetoric. Like, no, it's a fucking Twitch chat, mate. Calm down. So I started a discussion. First of all, even this. I announced my opinion that League of Legends is not a sport. Even that alone, it's like I announced it. It's not just like I said, I don't think League of Legends. It's more like, hear ye, League of Legends is not a sport. This began a flurry of disagreement and really equal parts agreement in the chat. Okay, weird way to phrase it. A minute later, I was not only removed from mod status, but completely banned, capital letters, from chat. I tweeted at him, and one of my sympathizers in the chat said a few words on my behalf, asking for at least removal from the ban list. It's like, it's just the idea that this guy like came forwards on his behalf, like, sire, I know he sinned, but if you could just, gosh, if you could only just say it in your heart to at least get him off the ban list. Could we just get him back into society? Give him something to do, Lord. Can't we do that? It went sort of like American Irish from Boston there, some shit, as I imagine a caricature there. But that in itself's hilarious. Like one of his sympathizers, and then they said a few words on his behalf as they were like, I request clemency, my lord. That's it. Just this guy's phrasing is fucking top. Little reference you won't know from poker there. So, let me see. My plea was ignored. Again, this guy's fucking way for it. Is this trolling actually? Because this is too good. My plea was ignored. Again, it's not a plea to fucking King Solomon, is it? Like, sovereign, please, I beg, I beseech thee, mercy, clemency. Like, my plea was ignored, as was my tweet to him. Same account name. Now, first of all, let's get real. People like St. Vicious has like 100. What do you think? 150, 170k Twitter followers. If you ever try out, I have only 80k, right? And if I put mentions on and I have a lot, and I was doing anything like streaming or whatever, I'd have 1 billion fucking mentions. I'm not scrolling through every one of those motherfuckers. So it's like, he probably didn't even read your shit. And I doubt he goes through them all anyway from randoms. Just like, why do you miss Smitey? Ha 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 ha. You were shit on CLG back in the day. Like, who gives a fuck, you know? So there's no way he reads all those. So I doubt he did ignore it on purpose. Even if he did, who gives a fuck? Who are you? And that's what ultimately made me realise something. Man, like, this guy's so melodramatic. And then here we go. Saint pretends to be the, inverted commas, adult of League of Legends, like he is the granddaddy of failed smites and broken dreams. In reality, he's just an old child with less hair than he once had and a shit attitude. He says it like it is, but usually it doesn't need to be said. So, Saint, if you're out there, ... you're a douche. It's the way he phrases it all in such grand terms before, so melodramatic. And then he just instantly goes uber toxic himself, right, on a Saint, with like, he pretends to be an adult. And then he just calls him the granddaddy of failed smites and broken dreams. I know the failed smites part, but what broken dreams is he the granddaddy of? Whatever. Just going in on him already. And then in reality, he's just an old child. Talks about him being bald and that he has a shit attitude. By the way, you have a shit attitude too, as you've shown throughout this whole story. And then the idea that even when he says it like it is, it doesn't need to be said. Well, obviously it doesn't need to be said, does it, you fucking idiot? He's not telling you some, like, quickly, a meteor is coming. The Earth will be destroyed in 10 days unless we build the space ark. Yeah, he's just giving his opinion. It doesn't need to be said. You know what else? You don't have to watch his fucking channel, do you? He's doing it on a stream. It's not mandatory, is it? The government... It's not like 1984 where we all get lined up in the morning and get forced to watch fucking Saint stream on a massive screen and go, Saint prevails. All power to the Saint of the state of Saint. He says it like it is and it has to be. We were always at war with Elementia. Anyway, these references are too next level. And then that part, like, if you're out there, again, if he doesn't read fucking tweets and stuff, he's not reading a comment with -1 points, like, and finally he gets that last sentence, you, like, deliver the ultimate blow, like, you're a douche. Like, oh, you got him there. Plus, that whole last paragraph, by the way, is basically like amazing justification for why Saint banned you. Like, he didn't know it at the time, but let's say like he later on somehow did see your tweet and he was like, actually, I feel bad about that. Let's say he reads this now, though. Let's say this is what he sees. He's now going to read all that where you've been super toxic, being a complete asshole to him, being a total shithead, and said a load of bunch of fucked up stuff. And then at the end, he's going to go, ooh, I'm glad I blocked and took that guy out of my mod thing and banned him from the chat. I don't ever want to read anything from him again. Seems super toxic and like an asshole. And I definitely don't want to be in my mod. So even though I didn't know it at the time, and maybe I did it for capricious reasons, now I definitely know he's wrong. So yeah, well done, mate. You really showed Saint there. You fucking made him regret it right there. He's going to think twice, yeah, before fucking with someone like you again. With his failed smites and broken dreams. And then, let's see. Oh, there's another comment from the same thing. This will be the last one, I think. This is about Saint. He once said on stream that I'm a cutie pie is ugly as fuck, even though they are friends and duo all the time. Props for honesty, I guess. And then someone replies, I mean, are we supposed to pretend he isn't? You don't bring it up casually, but if the topic is discussed, Twitch chat will just go wild if you lie. That is just Cutie Pie's thing. He is just a boss despite everything. And then another reply, I mean, if he got a haircut and worked out a bit, I'm sure he would look fine. Right, first of all, to the first comment, again, it doesn't matter. That I don't see the problem there. So he said I'm a Cutie Pie's ugly as fuck, but he's friends with him. Well, presumably he didn't just say it directly while they were streaming together, so he just said it about his friend. First of all, if you're someone's friend, you have some leeway to say things like that, and also you're not saying it to him. It's not like you're saying, dialing him up. Cutie Pie, yeah, how's it going there, mate? Raise your dongers or whatever the fuck. So yeah. Failed smites and broken dreams. So yeah, Cutie Pie, you are ugly as fuck. No, really, son, you're ugly as fuck. That hurts my feelings, Saint. Yeah, but we're still friends, though. Still friends, right? Yeah, I mean, I guess we're boys now that Kiwi's left me and all that. So, like, it's not like he said it right to his face. It has to be real. So, as a result, it's not even that big a deal. Although I'm sure some fucking idiot will go tell him, he just said you're ugly as fuck. You're transmitting the toxicity there, mate. It wasn't even going to get to him. Then there's the idea that, like, I love the comment, actually, by the way. That is Cutie Pie's thing, and he's just a boss with it. Cutie Pie obviously fucking trolls and purposely makes it sound look more ridiculous by having, like, a huge fucking beard and just wearing the, like, trashy like student clothes with some guy who just like doesn't even try to make his appearance look good. He just owns it, doesn't he? He is a boss. He's funny as fuck. Go watch that Reflections I did. It's one of the funniest I've ever done. It was amazing. The guy's a great entertainer. And then the idea that like that last part cracked me up as well. Like, I mean, if he got a haircut and worked out a bit, I'm sure he would look fine. Well, that's irrelevant to right now, isn't it? Should we just judge everyone on what would happen if they improved everything? If you go and look at some pictures online, I bet you can find some fucking pictures where Jack Black's at like has been working out for a movie, and then he's in like a sharp suit, he's on the red carpet at the premiere somewhere, he's got makeup on, the lights are on in the cameras. I bet he looks quite good. Look at Jack Black when he's in some movie playing fucking stoner, or in real life when he didn't make it. He looked like absolute shit, didn't he? Doesn't mean he's not a boss, like he's not ugly. It's unrealistic. Anyway, this video is sponsored by Alpha Draft. I might do another one of these. I don't even know, man. I'm just trying shit out. I'm throwing shit out there. Also, I really need some graphics for this, some special ones. So if someone can make some for me, then I'll be more likely to do another episode. And yeah, cheers. alphadraft.com. Thanks for the money. Pay me.